Give me a second, folks. My face isn't there. It's like, where am I? Well, we should pop up any second here. Oops. There we go. Hello. Again, thank you for joining No Soundbites Allowed, the long-form political commentary program. We've been doing it for over a decade. We enjoy being here with you. I am your host, Michael Voss, Dragon of the Southern Tier. And the reason why my screen was dead for a moment there and why I was looking a little off is because we have a guest in the studio. That is right. We have John Restuccia with us.
John, the former intern.
John, the former intern. That's correct. And hopefully everyone should be able to see the signal on all channels. I hope so.
Hopefully we're not being blocked.
Well, between Twitter, Facebook, and Google, probably are. But that's okay. And as people come in, please do let us know that you're there. Say hello. You can reach us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Say hello, or you can call into the show at 607-242-1582. Sorry, got that wrong for a second. So today we're going to be talking about a lot of things. I know people are busy watching football. A lot of people have been thinking about everything but elections, but there's a lot to be talking about here today. There's a lot of issues that are going to be affecting us all. And I want to get into some of the consequences of the election, because elections have consequences. John's with us right now, and I'm going to be, one of the things I want to get into, I want to start off going backwards in time a little bit, and actually showing you everything that's happened in this election is actually not new. It's not a surprise. It's actually stuff that we should have expected because we had the warnings since 2012. And I'm going to start off with one of the examples of what I'm talking about here. And that's going back to Rowan Atkinson. Now, a lot of people may remember him. He's a British actor. He's from the show Mr. Bean.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that guy, Mr. Bean.
Okay, you had to say the name. You had to say what he was in.
A lot of Americans don't know who he is, but in 2012, he was making a very big case about the issue of free speech. And I'm going to play a little bit of what he had to say. And of course, all of the links to everything we're talking about will be in the description in YouTube. But this is what he had to say.
That the Scientology case was also dropped at some point during the court process was proof that the law was working well, ignoring the fact that the only reason these cases were dropped was because of the publicity that they had attracted. The police sensed that ridicule was just around the corner and withdrew their actions. But what about the thousands of other cases that did not enjoy the oxygen of publicity, that weren't quite ludicrous enough to attract media attention? Even for those actions that were withdrawn, people were arrested, questioned, taken to court, and then released. You know, that isn't the law working properly. That is censoriousness of the most intimidating kind, guaranteed to have, as Lord Deere says, a chilling effect on free expression and free protest.
Okay. So that kind of sets up where we are right now. Where have we heard those kind of things? Where we've heard about the censorship, incredible censorship, chilling our First and Second Amendment rights, all of our rights for that matter. Well, we've heard about that with Twitter, with Facebook, blocking news media, attacking people in the public. We've heard that from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, saying that she needs to put together a list of Americans who supported the Trump administration in all the various ways that they may have done so. We've heard that in a lot of different ways. And that's the legacy. That's what we're going forward with. Now, there's something else I want to play. And this is from John Cleese in 2014. Okay. And obviously everyone knows John Cleese, Monty Python, Fish Called Wanda, but also having a very interesting aspect. And this leads also into 2020.
New concept, which is censorship, press censorship in the sense of censorship of the press by the press. So that they criticize everyone else. They criticize politicians and businessmen the church and doctors and sportsmen and, you know, actors and everyone. But they never actually get criticized themselves. And I think that's why they get so power mad. Anyway.
So that's an interesting take about the power of the press, the power mad nature of the press, about how they can criticize others and then they only allow certain other voices to come out there, even from other members of the press. And that was from a conversation in 2014. So in 2012, we were hearing about people talking about, and this is coming from Europe over to America at a time that we saw President Obama, Vice President Biden trying to make America more like Europe. And here we hear in Europe, no freedom of speech, no freedom of the press, no freedom of opinion. Gee, I wonder what else we might have heard about. Well, going with the theme of the Europeans talking about what's going on in America and the rest of the world, let's go to none other than Stephen Fry talking with Dave Rubin and just a little bit of what he had to say.
In terms of the way they think, they can't bear complexity. The idea that things aren't easy to understand, that there's a but there's a ah. You have to think. There are gradations. And there are, you know, that no one wants that. They want to be told, or they want to be able to decide and say, this is good, this is bad. I'm saying so. Anything that in any way conflicts with that is not to be borne. And on student campuses, this idea of,
Trigger warnings.
There are many great plays.
Yeah, and so he goes into it. So where have we heard that? Oh, it's my feeling. I feel this is right. I feel this is true. The truth is about my feelings. What was it that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said? The objective truth isn't as important as the moral truth, her truth, the personal truth. So Europe has told us exactly what we should be expecting now as we go into the 2021 and potentially a Biden administration, because it's not over yet. The count is still going on. The lawsuits are still going on. The discrepancies are still being found. So I've said a whole lot here, and I started off with a whole lot of information. So I want you to understand that experience in Europe is the experience coming to America. In 2012, 2014, Stephen Fry in 2016, they've been telling us where we're going to see Biden and Harris and the progressives take us. But before I go any further, I've got John here. Come on, you're
Hello.
in studio. Speak up.
Yeah, no, you were talking. You were on your monologue. You were doing good. You were
Oh,
on a
yeah.
roll.
A little bit.
You know, it's just, to me, the most interesting thing is how much the pendulum has switched with freedom of speech from early 2000s to now, right? And it brings me back to when Fox News and all these conservatives were terrified about violent video games or movies and things like that in the early 2000s.
Go back to the 80s. It was rock music.
Yeah. And the pendulum has now completely shifted, right? This was something that, you know, even back, I remember a couple of years ago, Glenn Beck was talking about, you know, and now it seems, and you see this with the, like, classical liberals. You know, you see that with the petition that all the famous liberal professors and writers signed, if you remember that from, I think, earlier this year.
Yeah, there was. With Salman Rushdie.
Yeah.
The call for
J.K. Rowling
reasonable
signed it.
understand and getting
Noam
rid of
Chomsky,
and getting rid of cancel culture.
Yes.
Big article. They got attacked immediately for it.
Yeah. And it just, the pendulum has shifted now where it's just, it's something the right has decided to take up and defend, freedom of speech, because it's something that needs to be defended. It is one of the core constitutional values that we have.
I think conservatives always did. I don't think that's ever changed because conservatives, by their nature, support the Constitution in more of an absolutist, originalist manner. As an example, First Amendment. I'm a massive First Amendment advocate.
I wonder why, right?
And
You're
I-
running a show.
Well, exactly. I wouldn't be able to have this program without the ability to have free speech. I believe in near absolute free speech, which means there is no such thing as hate speech.
No.
You know, speech that incites violence, speech that is an outright lie, no, that is not protected. But everything else, no matter what it is, no matter whether I like it or it makes me feel good or not, doesn't matter. It's free speech. And by the way, folks, you have that free speech too. You can always reach us on either YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or you can also call into the show at 607-242-1582.
You have a Parler now too, as well.
I do
don't
have
you?
Parler as well.
Yes, the number one growing app on the Apple App Store.
And MeWe, I'm on MeWe as well, and considering to go on to Rumble as people are making a massive exodus from Facebook, Twitter, and Google because of the censorship that they found there, which we've been talking about for years. So this is, I don't think conservatives have stopped or just started to protect the First Amendment. I've been having speeches about that for years. I've listened to people about their speeches about it for years. But I have heard from the Democrats how they want to restrict that. Binghamton University is a great example. College progressives, and this is something we see in many college campuses, where they want to have free speech zones. Well, what does that mean? If you have a free speech zone, it means you don't have free speech.
I'm pretty sure the United States of America is my free speech zone, thanks to our constitutional rights. That's what it should be.
That's what it's supposed to be. Now, let's put this in context of what we're seeing with the election, because there are consequences to this election. We have a Harris-Biden administration. And yes, I am saying a Harris-Biden administration because it is my firm belief that within roughly about 90 days, first 3 months, we will see Nancy Pelosi or whoever is Speaker of the House for the Democrats will push forward amendments on the 25th Amendment to oust Joe Biden because he is mentally deteriorating. And we have all seen that, and that is a fact.
He doesn't look good. He's not speaking well. Yeah.
And as president, he can't hide in a basement. The president of the United States cannot be in a basement whether COVID is or is not continuing to go on, even though we no longer hear about that.
Of course not. You saw him celebrating in the streets, and you can.
Yeah, and we're gonna get to Schumer dancing in the streets.
Did you find the footage?
Talking without a mask. Yeah, there is some of that. So obviously, COVID is smart enough to know Democrat from Republican, a rally that's in favor of Democratic policies versus eating a meal, whether you're having a drink or not, whether you're standing up or whether you're sitting down. It is the most intelligent, targeted kind of virus I have ever heard of in my lifetime. But let's get to that in 1 second. What is the consequence of a Harris-Biden administration? Okay. Well, let's think about it. We've already heard. They've already made the announcement yesterday across all the news media that Joe Biden wants to bring back DACA. So illegal immigration is okay in a Harris-Biden administration. In fact, they want to put together a path to citizenship, which is okay under a Harris-Biden administration. This is what we are seeing as a consequence. And they have said, even if they can't get this through Congress, they will do it through executive order. In fact, DACA is something that he wants to do to reinstate by executive order as soon as he gets in. By the way, did everyone remember? The Supreme Court said you can't get rid of DACA, that President Trump was not allowed to put in executive orders to change prior administrations for the first time ever. And now we have someone doing it again. By the way, Hot Chicks has just mentioned Schumer dances to appease 6 ways from Saturday. You're right. He does. And we're going to get into that. We're going to get into a few things here. But let me also say, Harris-Biden, they plan on day one, on January 20th, 2021, that on that same day, besides opening up our borders, they're going to have re-engage with the Paris climate change accords, which means that everyone in the nation is going to see a spike in their cost of energy. We're going to see millions of jobs lost, and we're going to see the Green New Deal to some extent being put in place.
And Joe Biden's against fracking, so we're going to see it go up. And if you're living in New York, we're already out of energy. You can look at Long Island. Their prices have been rising for heating and gas and everything like that.
Well, let's remember, what did Obama say? We have to necessarily skyrocket energy prices. And if you think that's going to be good for businesses, you're out of your mind.
Yeah. It's just going to make things worse. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to make things much, much worse than they already are. It's not good at all.
Well, we haven't even gotten to the tip of, this is just the tip of the iceberg.
This is just the very first.
So on January 20th, 2021, we know that besides opening up our borders, we're going to have climate change reinvigorated. We're going to see the government spending money to basically do Solyndra all over again, to pick winners and losers in the renewable energy field, which means your taxes are going to be spent on these gambles, which have all failed to date, and we have no reason to believe that they will. He's going to also, and this is all executive orders. I haven't even actually gotten to anything that has to go through Congress. These are executive orders he's putting through. We know that he has already said that he looks to shut down the government because of COVID-19. And we already seen Europe starting another wave of shutdowns. So he will, in fact, shut down the government because Europe will shut down. Regardless of whether America is doing better or not, the fact that the number of deaths are down is immaterial to, you will be mandated by the government to wear a mask. Now, that's something important. So you have no freedom to choose whether or not you want to have a mask, even if you had COVID before, even if you have immunity, even if there's a vaccine, you must wear a mask. He said that already. So there goes your freedom. Government is deciding what you can do in your daily life. What else is a consequence of the Harris-Biden administration? Well, there's packing the courts. Now that will have to go through Congress, but already we've seen that they're looking at different ways to change that. So if they can't pack the courts by adding new members, because thank God, Republicans seem to hold the Senate, then the alternative is, one of the choices is, they're going to take it away from being a lifetime position to a rotating position, which is ridiculous, and thus making it completely political.
Mm-hmm. I also want to bring up, as far as executive orders go, and this is something that isn't being talked about, and this is going to affect every single person in college.
Yeah.
As far as Donald Trump goes, he was the best president for freedom of speech on college campuses.
Absolutely.
He was the one who signed the freedom of speech executive order on college campuses.
Yes.
And doesn't matter who it is. You know, it could be someone it could be Ben Shapiro. It could be AOC. You have a right to get a speaker on campus and not be heckled and have a heckler's veto to get it shut down.
Well, cancel culture, and as well as, near riots, as we saw at Binghamton University and other universities across this nation.
And you're right. And action was taken due to the Trump administration because he made that one of his top priorities. You are not going to see that anymore.
Well, yeah, the current Department of Education investigation against Binghamton University, which is ongoing because of the violations in 2019 of 3 students, including your friends, being attacked by a mob of 200.
Yes.
Of a Dr. Art Laffer being, subject to an attack by the far left. That violation of First Amendment rights and a breach of contract with the students and parents and community by Binghamton University, that case is going to get dropped.
Potentially. It's very likely.
A Biden administration doesn't care about that.
No, they don't care about that. And all of there have been a lot of great student organizations out there fighting for freedom of speech on college campuses and who have made major headway the last 4 years and have won major court cases. You have people like Turning Point USA. You have people like Young Americans for Liberty, which also I'm a member and you are a member of, as well as Young Americans Foundation. You have all these great organizations that work to fight for free speech on campus. And who knows what's going to happen to that?
Hang on. The North American Aboriginal Society of Canada has just commented.
Okay.
Which I've never heard of in my life. And their answer is, WTF is this nonsense? To speak directly to the supposed North American Aboriginal Society of Canada, it's called long-form political commentary. We're discussing consequences of an election. If you don't understand that, then get a thesaurus. If you don't like it, go away. If you want to comment, please do. But, trying to be insulting doesn't work.
Is that trying to be?
Okay, so
don't know. What
I don't even know what that existence is. But if you don't like it, that's okay. You don't have to. It's called free speech.
Something that I'll defend.
And you can call me. No, I'm not. You don't even have a name. North American Aboriginal Society of Canada. What is that? Does it even exist? I love how sometimes we see these people on the left. They just make up titles for themselves to make themselves feel like they're really important. And you know what? I'm really at my end of patience with the silliness of the left going, oh my God, you can't say that. Yes, I can.
Are they still commenting?
They said, oh, you can call me Nas, N-A-A-S. No, I won't. I'll call you, Canada leftist.
Maybe Justin Trudeau's trying to
and what does Canada, I love this. His comment is Biden won and Canada supports Biden. Well, first of all, Canada under Trudeau has enough of its own problems, and Canada is useless without America to start with. And that's just honest. The fact that you have no freedom of speech because you have, C-16, which means you can't say certain words because the government doesn't allow it, means you already have massive problems, and we don't need to be anything like Canada, where you can't even speak. And this individual is talking, why is he commenting on this? I don't know. By the way, Biden hasn't won yet. Then he is expected to be the president-elect, but that hasn't gone through the courts.
So was Al Gore for 40 days.
Exactly. So
Al Gore was supposed to be president for 40 whole days. I mean,
perhaps Canada leftist, you may want to learn more about the American Constitution and our election system. As bad as it is, you don't know what you're talking about.
Also, why do we care what Canada has to say about our
Well, no, he's
elections?
commenting, and that's fine.
No.
But if you start off nasty, don't expect me to be nice to you because I'm not. This is my show. You don't get to be nasty to me.
I'm saying as far as the country of Canada saying that Donald Trump is the winner. Joe Biden is the winner. I can't speak today.
You know what? Every nation in the world can say that. I don't care. They can tell me Kanye West is the winner, and I don't care. That's not how our system works.
What's his party's name again?
John Taylor mentions Trudeau's statement about the French religious murders was disgraceful. I'd be ashamed to have a leader like him. And we see Michelle Lee has said, hey, how you doing? And so now comes the truth. Why is Canada leftist on? Because he just wants to cause a problem. Because he just wants to aggravate. He just wants to get in the way of the conversation. He wants to distract us.
Is that what he
from
said
we're talking
in the
about.
comments?
He says, I'm just ruffling some feathers. So, yeah, honestly, that's what he's here to be, an agitator. And other than being called out for being ignorant of the United States system, other than being called out for being someone who is a fake, then what else did he get? Nothing. You know what? So let me go forward. If you're not brave enough to have, to make a real statement and stand by it, I don't really care. And yes, Hot, he is just it's not a real channel. It is a troll. Dana says, hey, hello, Michael Vasquez. Happy Sunday. Hello, Dana. And by the way, we have John with us here.
Hello.
Oops, I got this all over John's face. Hang on one second.
Thank you. I'm worried about the Canadians.
Yeah. But what we were saying, which was much more important, is we were talking about
Free speech on college campuses and how it's going to be affected under the Biden administration.
one of the things that we were talking about.
And it's not being talked about at all. I have not seen the media bring this up because they don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
But it's something that we're going to see in the future. And if, you're sick of, these conservatives being shut down in college, like has happened to me. I've told the story of the time the very far left professor said that if my speech got out of hand again, my grade would suffer. Who could forget that classic? If you don't want to see that, it's going to probably happen under the Biden administration more and more.
Okay. First, Dana says, is it John with a John or Jon? And she says, hello.
Hello.
Is it with a
John.
John.
Yes.
And Michelle says hello as well.
Hello, Michelle.
And sadly, the North American Aboriginal Society of Canada, in other words, the Canadian leftist troll, has said bye. They had such great balls to stand here and actually, once they got called out for being a troll, for being fake, for being, a leftist agitator, they ran away.
Canada surrendered? I've never heard that before.
Yeah, right?
I'll give them the Mounties, though.
I mean, it's not like when we get, and we have people over in Scotland. We had some people from Scotland. We have some people from England in the last couple of weeks that have been listening to the show. I'm happy about that. I would love for people in Canada to also speak. We have over 100 countries that watch this program. And they're all more than welcome to speak. But, if you want to be a troll, you're going to get called out for it. Now,
did you want to talk? Moving on subjects. What?
yeah, but going on. Oh, and Lynn Kester says hello. It's Lacey's mom.
Hello,
Hey, Lynn.
Miss Kestacher. How are you doing? It's always good to hear from you. Tell Lacey I say hello. I got to give her a call.
Yeah, and by the way, I looked up the organization. Completely fake.
What a shock.
Amazingly, right? But let's. So we were talking a little bit
back it
about
up.
some of the consequences of a Harris-Biden administration. Let's also consider some of the other things that are happening here. And that is, we know that right now, there is still a massive issue. Kevin McCullough, who is also a political commentator on
Yes,
national.
he spoke at Binghamton last year.
He did. Good guy. And I follow him a lot.
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I follow him a lot. He's a national broadcaster, speaks on many channels throughout the nation on radio.
Writes for Town Hall,
Writes for Town Hall.
if you know that site.
And he's mentioned that there's a problem. A lot of people have noticed that it's come out that there was a program called the Dominion Voting Software, which gave 6,000 votes in Michigan, in one of the counties, to Biden from President Trump. That was later caught and it was corrected. But there are at least 47 other counties in Michigan. There are at least 28 states all using the same program. Now, if there's just looking at the counties in Michigan, 47 counties at 6,000 each would be 247,000 votes, which breaks the 140,000 vote margin that Biden has, and so forth. That would mean Michigan isn't with Biden. Changes the numbers. This is just one case of a problem. Now, imagine, I've also seen that there was another organization, not Wired, but similar. There's the argument that, no, it wasn't a design flaw. It was an update that wasn't automatic in the software that someone forgot to put into the system. And that's why it changed 6,000 votes from Trump to Biden. And it's only changed votes from Trump to Biden,
Kind of sauce.
not the other way. So there's a question with that. But here's the thing. How do we know that this hasn't happened in all of the other 28 states, in particular, the 6 states that really had a big issue? How do we know that they did or did not do that update? Because no one's looking. So we could be seeing votes that are going from Trump to Biden consistently in many states, especially the 6 states that came down to the wire. That is a question. That is a legitimate question. It is a question that needs to be investigated because it is a problem. Because there is no confidence in our elections at this time anymore.
Nothing like this has ever happened before either.
No.
I mean, even the hanging chads weren't like this. We've never had votes stop being counted.
You want to talk about voter confidence? Let's talk about this, folks. Does anyone feel confident in an election when for the first time ever, we saw that at 1 a.m., 6 states that were on the wire, critical in deciding who's going to be our president, and they just suddenly stop for no reason. Nothing went down, nothing broke. They decided, hey, let's go home. And then they said they'll be back at 9 a.m. And then they show up at 5 a.m. instead, 4 hours earlier, without any notification to the news media at all. And they start counting again. And suddenly we see a shift in all of the data. All of the votes start coming in. I mean, so much so that we saw a big change where in Pennsylvania, at 1 a.m., President Trump is leading Pennsylvania by 700,000 votes. Mm-hmm. Suddenly, we saw that there was a shift with only about, I think it was 1.5 million votes left to be counted in Pennsylvania. They were at about 88 or 90% in Pennsylvania at 1 a.m. From that time, over 3 more days to count roughly, I believe it was about 1.5 million votes. It took them 3 days. It took them 3 hours to count approximately 1.5 million votes. It took them 3 days to count the next 1.5 million. Statistically, it is almost impossible for Joe Biden to get 800,000 votes because that's what he needed to get he had to catch up and then gain in Pennsylvania without President Trump gaining essentially any votes. Mm-hmm. They were almost unilaterally all for for Joe Biden. That's statistically almost impossible. And that only occurred after a 4-hour gap of voting without notification that restarted without notification to the public. How can any American have confidence? How can we have confidence in that? How can I say that Joe Biden won? Not that it's one thing to say Joe Biden won. Okay, that happens. Elections go sideways. Things happen that you don't expect. People come out and vote. But this has never happened before, and it leads to nothing but questions.
I mean, look at the voter turnout for Wisconsin, right? What was it? What was voter turnout for the state of Wisconsin?
Oh, I forgot.
It was in the 90s, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. I don't care what state it is. I refuse to believe that 90% of the state came out and vote. I mean, it was projected to get what, like 70%, 80%?
It's incredible, the turnout. 73 million people for Biden, 65 million for President Trump. We're talking about 140 million Americans voting. First time we've seen that in about 100 years in terms of the percentage of Americans that actually voted, which I thought was beautiful, except there's no confidence in that because we don't know that these are actual real votes. We don't know where these votes came from because we see these discrepancies in state after state after state. When we have 28 states that are using a program that may be biased to take votes from the winner and give it to a loser, which would be Trump versus to Biden. That's a problem. Mm-hmm. And we have some comments here. Jason from Bing mentions that he first mentions that just think if there's a county that is all blue, you will not know that it was wrong. That's true. But also, if no one's looking at any of the other states and any of the other counties, you don't know how that actually went because there's no one pushing back. Jason goes on to say, they never told us why they shut down. No, they did not, and they never will. Dana mentions that not until now. Yes, it has never happened before. Mm-hmm. I've been alive 52 years. I've looked at elections. It's never happened before.
Nope, not even in, like I said, the most you can compare this to is the election in 2000.
Yeah.
Right. And that they didn't stop counting hanging chads.
They kept counting for days. They did recount and then they did another recount. They never stopped. No one left that. They had shifts going in and over again with people standing over every single one of them. And as we showed on Friday, we've seen video of people manipulating blank votes to put it all Democrat. There's actual video of this, of someone watching the election in front of a security guard, and they're just filling in the blank votes, and they're counted. He marked it received. That's what the video was on Friday about do you trust elections? It's on our channel on YouTube, and it's literally we're watching them mark it received and fill in the blanks so it can be counted. So I don't have trust in this. I don't believe in this. Michelle mentions that I have no faith in our system sad day for America. It is a sad day because we can't believe. And I know there are people on the left who are going to say, well, Mike, it's just because you're biased. It's just because you're a Republican. It's just because you're conservative. You know, when you sold out for all of $0 and became a Republican, well, that's it. You're just going to stand for them.
Did someone say you sold out?
I get told that all the time. Because I'm black.
Oh, that is, yeah. The left does tell you sell out all the time.
I'm a sellout. Meanwhile, let's look at Jay-Z. How much money does he have for saying things that I would never say about black people and all the other rappers? We're talking about billions of dollars, but I'm the sellout. Okay, sure.
Show us the money. Yeah.
You know? But the point is, going back, why should I have any confidence? This is information that absolutely matters. This is questions that are publicly known, that are not being adequately answered. You know, like with the Dominion program, the answer is, well, you know, that guy just needed to do an update. How do we know everyone else did the update? We don't know that. How do we know what happened when they suddenly stopped counting and started again? There's a reason why in Florida they never stopped counting, because no one would have confidence in the result if they did that, no matter which way the votes went. And I guarantee you, if this was, notice, there's not one case where anyone is saying that Biden lost votes to Trump because of something illegal. But we have, in the weeks coming up before this election, we know that in the internet, Facebook, Twitter, Google, were manipulating data to be pro-Biden. We know for a fact that in several states, the dead were registered as Democrats so that they could vote. That is a fact.
Yep.
That is a proven fact. We know that there are many states, according to Project Veritas and CBS and NBC, where we see that there were voting irregularities, if not outright violations of laws, all related to the election, all by Democrats. It's not me making this up. This is the facts. We know that it's all been on the Democratic side. We know that since 2016, actually before, but in 2016, we saw the Democrats manipulate an election primary to make sure that Bernie Sanders would not win, so Hillary Clinton would win. We know that they gave answers in the debates to Hillary Clinton. That is a fact. That's why... what's her name? Donna
Brazil?
No. The other one, who is the former head of Wasserman Schultz, Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Debbie Wasserman Schultz was the president of the DNC. She got fired because she was violating the rules. She manipulated the primaries. Yes, Donna Brazil was fired and she was disgraced because she gave away the answers to debates. We know that Democrats are willing to manipulate, and they have said they are willing to do anything necessary to win in 2020. We saw the internet, we saw Twitter go out there. They blocked news organizations, credible news organizations, from even telling people about the news. So yeah, why am I led to believe, with that backdrop of Democrats doing absolutely everything and anything they can to manipulate and to win, and then I see all of these problems, and they're telling me, well, no, it's perfectly fine. It's absolutely a normal election. I'm like, no, it's not. No, that's not how you do it. A couple of comments, real quick. So, wow, a lot of comments.
Whoa.
Hang on, folks. I know we were on a little run here. So Dana says, if this is what I made a post about, if there is fraud, we all lose, no matter what side you're on. And I agree with that, Dana.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Hot mentions, I left you a message for you. Oh, she's sending a message to the Canada leftist fake. Or fake Canada leftist. I don't know. No,
Justin
actually,
Trudeau, yeah.
Canada leftist fake. Jason from Bing says, did anyone explain the software glitch? Did the company has done, yes, and the company has done work with the Clintons as well. As I mentioned, it was an update that was not put in to that county which it doesn't answer whether or not anywhere else was available.
Thank you, Jason, for being. He's a loyal listener.
He is.
He's a good guy.
He's great.
Yeah.
Michelle mentions, I have faith that he will remain our president. The left will destroy our cities, but it's worth it. Well, yeah, let's get into the riots in a second. Lynn mentions, Michael, you're a terrific commentator. Ignore ignorance. I do. That's why I'm not mentioning Canada leftist anymore. Dana mentions that now Ms. Brazil works for Fox. That is absolutely true, which is sad for Fox. It's sad for all of the news media.
Yeah, I don't know how that one got past the HR department.
No, I'll be fair. You know, everyone in every news organization, including myself, have had errors. We've all made mistakes. Sure. We've all rushed to get a story out there. The New York Times does it a lot. Rolling Stones have done it. They've made up stories, in fact.
Yes.
Like the Atlantic, they've made up stories, and yet they remain to be credible. Fine. I've had one mistake where I got something wrong, and I apologize for it immediately, publicly.
Yeah.
Unlike these other organizations. But Donna Brazil, no, she actually violated the rules pertaining to
Ethics.
a debate, ethics. This wasn't a mistake.
Yeah.
It's more in line with, New York Times publishing fake stories. It's more in line with Corn Pop from Joe Biden, a complete fiction.
Do we know Corn Pop is fake?
It's fake.
How do you know?
There is no black man that has been alive since slavery that would go by the name Corn Pop. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people who have nicknames that are all kinds of stupid. Not one would go with Corn Pop. Okay?
That's fair.
The only one who would come up with that is some white racist guy from the South who thinks, hey, what sounds black? Corn Pop. Okay. That's where that came from.
Fair enough. And I would like to say, if anyone wants to know more about voter fraud, because this happened almost in 2016.
Yeah.
James O'Keefe, head of Project Veritas, wrote a book, American Pravada, his most recent book. He goes into a lot of detail about how it works and breaks down how he uncovered voter fraud in 2016 and helped to stop it before it came out. Mm-hmm. Highly recommend it to your audience as well. This is not a plug. I don't work for Veritas, but if anyone wants to get a better idea of how deep this kind of voter fraud is, I mean, there you go.
Yeah. So, and I know that WIC, Texas, New York. I don't know what that is. WIC, Texas, New York. These aren't tears about MAGA. This is tears for America. I'm concerned about the consequences of this election, not only in the policies of the Harris-Biden administration, but also in terms of how are we ever going to trust another election? How is this going to influence elections going forward? Is this going to create more voter apathy, less voter apathy? Does it incite more people to go into violence? I mean, we know the left is more than willing to go into violence, and I do believe that they're about to get into even more riots. Matter of fact, riots are still ongoing as we speak, in the big hotbeds of the far left, like in Portland and Seattle. We have riots still ongoing. I think that continues because they have no reason not to continue. Mm-hmm. So it's not tears for MAGA or Make America Great. It's not tears for President Trump. It's tears and concerns about the American government, our system, our Constitution, our way of life. And if we don't question these things, then that corruption, which we know is evident since 2016 at the least, and has been proven, will continue. That's not to even speak about the corruption of whether or not Biden is corrupt and complicit with China and Russia, receiving millions of dollars funneled through his son and his brother, which means how do we trust any international relations between Biden and China and Russia? That's a big problem. So yeah, do I have concerns? I have a lot of concerns because this election has ramifications that go all the way down the line. It's not about tears for President Trump. It's not tears about MAGA. I can lose an election. We've lost elections before. What does this election mean? Mm-hmm. That's the question we really need to address. Lacey, Hot Chick mentions, they call me Corn Pop. You're funny. You're funny. We have some great commenters. I love it. Lynn mentions that the last comment is from a real. Oh, yeah. The Canada leftist, the fake. He's a fake and he's an agitator. I'm ignoring him.
Oh, is he back on?
He's continuing to just because he can't just leave. He's got to try and make himself important. This is his moment. He's coming on to this program, which gives him more attention than he has ever had before. And I'm assuming it's a he, could be a she, but more attention than they've ever gotten before in their life. So they just want to see, ooh, maybe I'm going to say something about them. Maybe I'm going to get involved. They're useless. They got nothing. They have no comment to make, nothing of value to add. And they've already admitted they're here to be an agitator. So why should I care? So going on, Jason mentions that even though there is not a silver bullet on voter fraud, there are massive holes in the system and they have to be sealed, and Dems have not committed to make it better. Of course they haven't. Jason, it's in their favor. It's their holes. They made them. I mean, if you could show me where we have Republicans who have registered the dead, who have used programs that are taking votes from Biden to give it to Trump, please show me that. And I'll say, hey, it's across the board. But we're not seeing that. There is not one report of that. And I guarantee you, if it existed, the news media would be jumping up and down to make sure we knew about it ahead of time. They'd be telling us it doesn't exist. So yeah, there's a problem here. And we need to fix that. And it's on the Democratic side, but they're not, why are they going to take away the thing that gives them an advantage? Dana mentions silence is consent, and it has been. That's why we saw the protests throughout the entire nation, throughout the entire summer, 130 days of continuous straight protests throughout the nation. And we've yet to hear the Democrats come out and clearly denounce all of the violence that we saw with Antifa and Plot and BLM throughout the nation. You just haven't heard it. Oh, and another consequence of a Harris-Biden administration is they're looking to use executive orders to create social justice. So the bail reform, which has worked so well in New York State, that according to Governor Cuomo, 14% of the felons or criminals who were released from Rikers Island, 2,500 of them they all went back. They all had they re-offended 2.5 times apiece. 2.5 times apiece. They didn't just go back and have another crime. They went back and had multiple crimes. That's besides the people we released that robbed the bank and went back and robbed the same bank. That's besides all the violence crimes that we've seen. So guess what? It's going to be a national bail reform so that all the criminals across the nation can be re-released back into the public to re-offend. And we will ask them very kindly, please show up to your court date so that we can throw you in jail for life. You think they're going to do that? I don't. Where's the logic in this? Going on, Lynn mentions she agrees with Jason. That's why there are multiple lawsuits pending, which means that the election is not final. No one has been declared the winner.
Except by the media.
Well, the media, and
they don't declare a winner.
And the media can claim anything they want. They claim Dewey beat Truman. They've claimed lots of things and been wrong before. In 2016, the media claimed that Hillary Clinton was going to win in a landslide. Hell, in this election, they said that Biden was going to win in a landslide. There would be a blue wave. Well, let's see.
That's not what it's looking like.
Well, what's the blue wave? Let's see. Republicans gained 7 more seats in the House. We're retaining the Senate. We won, 69 seats in state legislatures?
Yep.
And Democrats gained how many? None?
I don't know. I don't think it's any.
Okay.
But we can't fact check on that one, but still.
As far as I can tell at this moment. Yeah. So, yeah, where's that blue wave? Where's that wave?
I think we won a governor's seat too as well, didn't we?
You know, it just goes to tell you.
We flipped a governor's seat.
There was no blue wave. Every single polling number that was put out there, every one of the predictions that were put out there by the news media were wrong, which again makes me say, I don't see that matching the results. They were so wrong after they corrected their system from 2016, they were still so wrong. It's beyond belief.
Yeah. Now, changing gears, Mike.
Let's see.
Are you sure you want to go? Because
Hang on. John Taylor mentions, I never really liked Trump, but as a Brit, oh, John, you're in Britain. Fantastic. It was nice to have a 4-year respite from being involved in Middle Eastern wars. And the, 4 deals that he made to increase international peace that has never been done by any administration since the 70s. And he's gotten nominated for 3 Nobel Peace Prizes. And do you think that Joe Biden is going to do that? Or do you think he's going to reinstitute the Iran nuclear deal?
as well as drone strikes a lot.
Well, wait a minute. The Iran nuclear deal, remember,
Yeah.
the Iran nuclear deal gave so much money to Iran. I believe it was $150 billion. And John Kerry, then Secretary of State under the Obama-Biden administration, stated publicly that some of that money will be used to fund global terrorism. That is a fact. And this is Joe Biden, the guy who helped put that plan in place, who thinks that the Iran nuclear deal was a great idea.
Foreign policy.
He was
master.
willing to say, hey, please don't attack us for the next 5 years. By the way, here's a bunch of money so you can go around the globe and kill innocent people. This is what people voted for, apparently.
This is a foreign policy master.
That goes, okay, we're going to fund global terrorism. That is a fact. You don't believe me? Look it up. John Kerry, Iran nuclear deal, funding terrorism.
And this
It
is
is
the
a
same
fact.
man who said air conditioning was more dangerous than ISIS as well. So
Oh, well, yeah, that's stupid. By the way, John Taylor, where in Britain are you? Are we talking mainland, one of the Commonwealths? Where are you at? We always like to see, we get people from over across the pond quite a few times. We love to hear from you guys. Just wondering where you're at. So going forward, so we know there's riots. There's going to be more riots. I have absolutely no doubt in that. But at the same time, we know that Democrats are losing their minds. As an example, we know that according to the Daily Caller, yes, I know they're a right-leaning, but doesn't change the fact they have reported, and it has not been denied, that there was a Virginia Democrat who lost her mind. And she says her name was a Democratic Representative, Abigail Spanberger, who said, and we quote, "We lost races we shouldn't have lost. Defund the police almost cost me my race because of an attack ad. Don't say socialism ever again." And she went on to add that the Democratic Party needs to get back to basics, and that again, quote, "If we run this race again, we will get effing torn apart again in 2022. Well, to which Nancy Pelosi mentioned, we have a mandate. So let's address that for a quick second.
this was a big article. I sent this to you, Mike.
Yeah.
Credit where credit's due.
Of course.
I found this, and to me, this was the biggest thing out of the election, to me at least.
Well, it's a very strong statement, and it goes with what we later hear from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I'm jumping around a little bit here.
It relates.
But Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, in an interview on Saturday with the New York Times, and she says, and she was asked, what is your expectations as to how open the Biden administration, really the Harris administration, will be to the left? And what is your strategy in terms of moving it? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says, I don't know how open they'll be. And that's not a personal thing. It's just the history of the party tends to be that we get really excited about the grassroots to get elected. And then those communities are promptly abandoned right after the election. So Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is being very clear that Democrats are going to abandon their base as soon as they get the election confirmed, which is something that we hear. She also goes on what else did she say here? She also mentioned that she may not be staying around. You know, she mentions that the last 2 years have been pretty hostile. Externally, we've been winning. Externally, meaning the Democratic Socialists of America. Externally, there's been a ton of support. But internally, it's been extremely hostile to anything that even smells progressive. Is the party ready? Where is it? So that goes back to, and that tells you something about that the party is hostile to progressives. And we hear in Virginia where they're saying, don't you even mention the word socialism, and defunding the police is insane.
Mm-hmm. And I just want to say, AOC out of her mind, and this infuriates me because the majority of Americans don't want these policies, Democrat, Republican, whatever. And you know what proves it? Back in the midterms, every single person she backed from her progressive pack, you can fact check me on this, Mike, and I'm sure you remember this, every single newcomer she backed lost their race.
Yeah.
Every single one. So no, AOC, just because you won your race doesn't mean that anyone else wants it. She's out of her mind if she thinks the average American, and it's this idea that these big cities can, decide everything else. California can, big cities in California, San Francisco, New York City, can decide all of these policies for the rest of the country, where we go, no, that's absolutely insane. Why would we want to defund the police?
I've said it many times. I had a couple of, both before the election and after the election, and for some people may be aware, I did run for a race in a local election. I lost. It happens. But I had been interviewed by a couple of students, both at the university level at Binghamton University and also with high school students. And I was asked the same question about defunding the police. And I've made a challenge, and I've said it here on this program many times. Please show me one city, one community, which has defunded the police, and we did not see, as a result, almost immediately, an increase in crime and an increase in violent crime as well as shootings. I am unaware anywhere in the nation that has actually defunded the police, which has meant in every single case disbanding the police. We have yet to see a single case where it has had a beneficial impact. And yet we see the Democratic Socialists like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez who are saying we have to do this. And at the same time, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is also the person who has promoted the Trump Accountability Program, Trump Accountability Project. This is insane, folks. This is a program that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez herself has helped to push forward, which says that, and I'm on their website right now, and again, all the links are going to be in the YouTube description, that says that individuals who worked for the Trump president campaign, Republican National Committee, and affiliated PACs. It also goes to those who funded him, individuals that use their personal wealth and influence to bundle for Trump. Now, this has been manipulated. An earlier version of this also included everyone who voted for President Trump. They were targeting individuals, but once the public found out that they were saying, and the public too, that's when they went and they redid the website and took that out. No, you don't have to believe me. Look it back. Go on the Wayback Machine. You will find it. They are targeting individuals. They are after you if you voted for Trump. In fact, what we're looking at is, and this is why, there's at least a couple of Democrats who are figuring this out, like Abigail Spanberger out of Virginia, who understand what they're looking to do is to put together a list, and that list is going to be used at some point. And it's going to be made up of things like, you didn't share this meme on Facebook or other social media promoting Joe Biden or one of the Democratic ideals. You didn't like this tweet, and you should have, because it was about progressives and Democratic Socialists. And so you're on the list too, because if you didn't join us, then you're against us. And that is how you get the Jewish stars and the pink triangles and the problems that we have seen everywhere there where we have some kind of authoritarian government stepping in and segregating people based on you had the wrong idea. You are on the wrong side of this political debate, and we have the power, and we're going to punish you. That is the problem.
These people live in their own fantasy lands. That's what it is. I mean, these are the same people who have private police and security watching them 24/7.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to defund the police, fine, but you still have Secret Service following you. You have you have police escorts. It's insane. You're out of your mind. These people just do not get, and this is the problem. The leftist elites do not understand. They didn't understand how Trump won. They don't understand regular people.
Well, I don't even care what they think about Trump. I don't care.
No.
Because his policies it's all orange man bad. We understand that. I don't care that you don't like him. It doesn't matter. What is his effect? As John Taylor mentioned, and by the way, John is from Southwest England. That would put you in Wales, if I remember it correctly. Is that right, John? And it's the birthplace of Blackbeard, pirate country to this day. Yar. Yar is his quote. And by the way, John,
Pretty cool.
So now we have, not only do we had Scotsmen, Midlanders in England, but also we now have a British pirate who follows the show and calls in. I love it. I love it. But let's look at this. I have actually lived in the Soviet Union, okay, back in 91. I watched the coup attempt. I've watched the RFGC as they came over, rolled tanks down the street to try and take over. I have been in Soviet Tbilisi. I have lived there as they started their civil war. I have had the secret police of Tbilisi under the Soviet government that worked with me in a business at that time, because that's how you did business. You had to have them as part of the company as liaisons, because you couldn't have them. I mean, at least he was honest enough to let us know that he was part of the secret police, and he was actually friendly to us, because one of the members of the company I worked at in Tbilisi, in the Soviet Union, was a former KGB captain.
It's not very secret if they're telling you.
That was publicly known, trust me. The question was, were they still in the KGB? What were they really doing as secret police? That was the real question. Okay?
Yeah, fair enough.
It was a time of a great deal of conflict. And I can tell you that a couple of the guys the reason why the Soviet captain, KGB captain, was with us is because he had his back broken in a case that he wouldn't tell us about.
You learn something new every day from Mike.
And there was a lot of stuff going on. And anyway, I won't get into that story. But yes, I've seen what happens with this secret police mentality where they have lists of individuals who are targets of the government. And I've had someone who said, well, Mike, you don't understand. Matter of fact, it's a listener, Larry, who's sometimes on the program. He isn't saying anything today. But Larry, who's a big anti-Trumper, he doesn't really like Biden from what I can understand, but he hates Trump. And he wanted to tell me, no, it's okay that we have a list of people who are on the wrong side of politics, which it's America. I can be on any side I want to be. And he said, it's okay because their children should know how they voted. Their kids should know how they voted. Why?
Who cares?
Do your grandkids know that your great whatever voted for or against slavery? And if they happen to be Democrats, that means they were voting for slavery. Does that matter? Does it matter that maybe your grandfather was voting against civil rights back in the 60s because he was a Democrat? I mean, that's the reality. That's why the votes went down. I don't see anyone pulling out a list and saying, here are all the American citizens who voted for these people who voted against civil rights. I have yet to hear anyone say that. You know why? Because it's America and we don't hold that against you. Until now. Now there is a list going around, and I guarantee you, if there's one list that we know of, How many lists don't we know of that are maybe local and regional that are saying, hey, here's a Trump supporter. Do I think I'm on one of those lists? I absolutely guarantee it. I'm on a list for Twitter,
sure you
for
are the
Facebook,
list.
for YouTube. I know that they censor me. I know that they shadow ban me.
We're looking at you, Jack Dorsey.
I know that the local BLM plot and Antifa hate my guts. They have threatened me. They have used racial slurs against me.
Yes.
I know that the Democratic Party locally hates my guts, spent tons of money to make me lose an election,
Yes.
and have vehemently said, some of the far left factions out here have literally told me that they want to see me dead. And do I think that there's some faction of the far left that is out there putting a list together of members of who were not all democratic socialists? That includes libertarians, conservatives, Howie Hawkins and the Green Party. These are all individuals who aren't on board with their exact idea. That's dangerous, and it needs to be called out. I mean, that's my thought on it. And I would love to hear what John Taylor thinks. I would love to hear what any legitimate Democrat out there, a regular rank and file Democrat. I would love to hear from a Democrat socialist. I would love to hear from the progressives out there. I'd love to hear their thoughts on this and tell me, well, Mike, you're wrong. It's perfectly fine to have a list. Let me ask you, do we have a list of the people who are in BLM? Do we have a list of the people who are in plot? The list of the people who are in Antifa? Guess what? There's a reason why they are secret organizations that hide their membership, even from other members, and work in independent cells, because they are terrified that if people know who they are, there will be repercussions for the insanity that they commit. So imagine why, if BLM is not confident enough to say publicly who they are and have a list of their membership, why in the world should I not be concerned that there is a list somebody is making on the left, probably a Democratic socialist, though I can't prove it, that is putting together a list that includes my name as somebody who doesn't agree with them? That is a problem. That's my point of view. That's my point of view. But I would love to hear from any Democrat, any Democratic socialist, which is a socialist, which is a communist. I'd be happy to hear from those communists to explain it to me. I want them to explain how it's not exactly the same as the secret police and the members of the KGB that I interacted with in Soviet Union while I watched socialism actually happen, and can tell you that it's the worst thing that could possibly happen in this world. Go ahead, John. I know I'm just losing my mind here.
You're fine. We're living in weird times. And you know what else? Segueing into weird times.
Yeah.
You know what else is crazy?
Mm-hmm.
Red flag laws.
Oh, we got Philip Price just responded. And yes, the red flag laws. I want to get into that.
Yes, that was a good segue to go into that, I thought.
Oh, hey, how you doing there, Philip? Yes, I do know how much I lost by in the election.
Oh,
yes,
is he telling us?
Yeah, he's giving me
cool.
He's giving me the vote count. And just so people know, I ran against Bob Wessler, who is a Democrat. Bob got 68% of the vote. I got 32% of the vote. And how does that change the price of tea in China? How does that affect anything? I lost an election. People lose elections. It happens. So what?
At least you ran.
I already said it. You know what, Philip? You run for an election. Let's see your numbers. And what you left out, Philip, is that, and yes, I'm a little salty about it. I admit that. I lost an election. I'm going to be a little salty. It's a couple of days after the election. But let's keep in mind, I was outspent 6-1. Democrats used every leveraging point they could to get me out. In a district that is 80%, it was at least 6-1 in spending.
Yeah.
They spent 6 times as much as I did in a district that's 80% Democrat, and I am an outspoken Republican conservative. And they were terrified of me winning. So, did I get 32%? Yes, I did. Am I satisfied with that? I don't like to win. Am I going to cry? No. So, thank you for putting that up there. It's public information. I already admitted it. Not a big deal. That being said, let's go on. Let's move forward.
Thanks, Philip.
Yeah, thanks, Philip. When you have something constructive, please, something that is actually relevant to the conversation we're having right now, please do add it in.
You give these trolls too much credit, Mike.
What?
Honestly.
They get a right to have something to say.
Yeah, you should.
But,
you know what? You
Philip
should
is
just let
Philip
it
is
ride.
obviously trying to be insulting.
Sure,
He's
just
trying-
let it ride, Mike. Let it ride.
Trying to be insulting. It's not like I didn't admit it early in this. I don't care.
When's Philip gonna run? That's the good question, Philip.
I'm waiting. I want to see.
Come on, Phil. I'm totally hyped.
I would love to see Philip's policy on anything. I would love to. Philip, tell me, where do you stand on defunding the police? Can you explain why we should or should not defund the police? Are you willing to publicly say so? And if you have, fantastic. I want to see that. Let's have that debate. If you want to have that conversation, let's do it.
That'd be awesome.
And I will be more than happy to put you on this program and do a live interview with you, and you can tell me your position on it. I would love to hear it. Matter of fact, you can call in 607-242-1582. You want to have some big balls? Let's go for it. Call in. Tell us about defunding the police, please.
We're waiting, Philip.
Yeah.
But
while Philip decides whether or not he's going to actually call in and tell us where he really stands,
we got a big issue.
the red flag laws
There you go.
is a massive issue. Now, something that a lot of people don't realize, the red flag laws in New York State in particular, there's 17 states that have red flag laws. And the red flag laws, quick summary, basically, someone will accuse you of being a danger to yourself and or your community. With that statement being made, they will go to a court, they will get a warrant, they will come to your home without ever notifying you, knock on your door. That's the first time you will be told. They will enter your home, take every single firearm that is in the home, and if you have children in that home, they will take your kids too. That is a fact. That is confirmed by assembly members, lawyers, state legislators. This is in New York State. It is a fact. This happens. This is what the law is meant to do. And I've already proven that many, many times over the years.
You can go back and check out No Soundbites Allowed YouTube channel, and you can find a plethora of videos on it.
Yeah, just
Correct,
type
Mike?
in red flag and you'll be able to get all of this. And I've covered it. Did an 8,000 word
Please go
report
back-
on it.
Yeah, please go back and watch some of our old content too.
Yeah. And now, on top of that, here's the thing. The last time anyone was told anything about the red flag laws was in October of 2019. At that time, there were 129 red flag actions. That's when the police, under warrant, have come into someone's home, taken their firearms and their children. And by the way, no crime has ever been committed. These individuals did not commit any crime. They were never found guilty of a crime. They never went to court about the crime. They were punished simply because someone else said, I don't trust them because I have a feeling, and they lost their rights. So, hang on. When Philip said something stupid, I'm about to get to it in a second.
Is he calling in?
No. He doesn't have the balls to call in.
Come on, man. I'm waiting for you to run. I
No,
will give
instead,
$5 to your election.
instead, he's telling me that all the other Republicans seem to win. Fantastic. Did you think for a second there, Philip, that maybe they won because the Democrats are spending their money and their time on my race, trying to beat me? You think? Because guess what? Everyone else who follows politics knows that that was a factor. So again, get off my back.
Philip, come on, man.
But going further, on the red flags, 129 red flag instances in October at this time in New York State, according to the New York State Unified Court System, statewide, there are 624 red flag actions. Now that's important. That's 624 Americans in New York State who lost their Second Amendment rights, potentially lost their children, and they never committed a crime. They never did anything wrong. And again, this is from a FOIA that I submitted to the New York State Unified Court System, and this is their document back to me. I had asked for every single red flag action since February of 2019 when the law was put into place. And I do not know when this list is, but as of November 6, 2020, which may mean from January to 2020 till now, or maybe February till now, they weren't clear. I'm waiting for clarification. But they have stated 624 Americans in New York State have had a red flag put against them without ever violating a law. And this is something that the Harris-Biden administration wants to make national. They want every single American who may or may not have a firearm, and there's 160 million people, actually more than 160 million Americans, because over 5 million Americans, many of them Democrats, over the last 3 months have gone in and gotten their first firearm because they don't trust the government. These individuals all are now subject to being punished without ever breaking a law, and that punishment may include taking their children. And I'm terrified. And I'm just showing everyone, this is the complete list from the New York State Unified Court System. And it doesn't tell me how many of those cases did not go through, which to my knowledge is 100% always goes through. And they particularly were big in Suffolk County, which had 201 cases. The next largest case would be, I had it in front of me, would be Onondaga County. Oneida County has 40 of them, which is very close to my area. Broome County actually had 2, which is where I live. This is terrifying. This is absolutely terrifying. Michelle mentions, what S-stick, who cares what your numbers are you got next year? At least you have the strength to run and to try. You're in New York, effing state. It's a Democrat state. Yeah. And
Thanks
the
for the
district,
support, Michelle.
yeah. And the district is
appreciate that.
80-1.
Yeah.
So, 80% to 20%. I think I did fantastic. I'm happy with it.
Yes, we.
John Taylor mentions, thanks for asking. Having spent a long time reading Russian and European history, I find the direction the Dems have taken has alarming echoes to the building up to the worst we saw in the 20th century. I agree with you. John, you are very correct. And we all need to be a bit of pirates, I think, going forward. In maybe not to the extent that Blackbeard did.
You're just excited to have a pirate in your chat.
Yeah. I love it. Not only British, but a true British pirate. I love it, But we have to be very concerned about these things.
I am.
I mean, look at what we have lined up. We have the New York State promising that the government's going to take care of you. You're going to be okay. We're just going to take away your Second Amendment rights. And by the way, we're going to take away your kids.
We're going to take away your police.
We're going to take away your police. We're going to take away your right to defend yourself.
What does this leave us?
And we're going to put you on a list that we're going to use at some future date, but we're not going to tell you what we're going to do.
I don't see what they want us to do. If they're going to take away, what do they want us to do? That's the thing. They want us to be completely defenseless. They don't want us to have.
Well, no, and again, let me run this down for everybody. And if you think I'm wrong, please tell me. Like I said, we're looking at everyone, other than the troll, we're looking at everyone's comments and we're talking about them. So under a Harris-Biden administration, where we're going to get Biden and then he's going to get thrown out to have Harris come in because Biden has mental issues, we're going to see borders are going to go away because they're looking to create a path to citizenship. They're looking at open borders and they're going to activate DACA again. We're looking at a hit to our economy because we're going to be in the Paris Accords again. We're going to see climate change increasing, which is using taxpayer money to fund these long shot ideas, just like we did with Solyndra.
And by the way, the Paris Climate Agreement is not binding. It's
you don't not have supposed to be.
You don't have to follow it.
Well, China doesn't.
Exactly.
Neither does India.
And both of them signed it, correct?
Yeah, and they're also the 2 biggest polluters in the world.
Sure. It just goes to show this is not an agreement people listen to.
It isn't, except for the United States and the Democratic Socialists.
Yeah.
And this is something that we're going to get under a Harris-Biden administration.
This is the equivalent of me signing a piece of paper saying I'm never going to litter in my life. Right? It's not binding. I could literally pick it up and throw it away. There's no accountability, there's no checking.
Well, there's accountability to us because, we have Democratic Socialists in charge. But everyone else, no. We have, and by the way, we already are the largest reduction of greenhouse gases in the world since 2017. We have led the world, and we remove more greenhouse gases to date than all of Europe combined. Mm-hmm. You have to put all of Europe combined together to get close to the United States. That's how much we've reduced it already. Why we need this, I don't know. But anyway, we're looking at packing the courts, shutting down the government. We're looking at the new, specifically the Iran nuclear deal, going out and again promoting global terrorism by supporting the Iranian government. We're looking at removing our police, releasing criminals without any bail, part of the bail reform, opening up our jails as part of the social justice reform. We're looking at... Oh, we got a call.
Is that Philip?
No.
No?
Hello, and thank you for joining us. This is No Soundbites Allowed with your host, Michael Voss, and also John Rastusha at the moment. Hello. Who's speaking?
Hey, Mike, it's Jason. How you doing?
Hey, Jason. How are you?
Hey, I figured I'd tune in and add a couple of my thoughts. I wanted to, maybe talk a little about your race and then maybe some of the stats and the numbers and my observation of what exactly happened there. And
well, one thing before you start,
sure.
Just to let people know, it looks like Facebook is dropping us at the moment. We've obviously gone into the realm of subjects that are not supposed to be spoken about. And so I see that at least Facebook, possibly YouTube, maybe Twitter are all restricting our live cast here. But go ahead.
Yeah, great. So basically it's going to talk about your your election. They're like, yeah, we can't have that conversation. But let me just say, that was one of the considerations with the district that, I voted for you because I'm in your district. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that, we know is that there is quite frankly, I didn't realize how many Democrats are in this district comparably, proportion wise. We figured it was like 2 to 1, but near 80% is really insane. And the thing is that obviously being in an election season, where we were, where you just couldn't get out in front of people and be able to articulate door to door exactly what your perspective is and what your concerns are on the community. And yet the simple fact was is that you actually did get actually a very good proportion of individuals who are Democrats, because if you think about it, most people, what they do if they're going into the polls and they do not know the candidate, they pretty much are just going to go straight down the line. If you're a Democrat, you go straight across the line. You go Republican, you go straight across the line. So even at a percentage, that you had, you actually did cut into, the Democrats, because at some point, you were able to obviously project, what you wanted. And I do believe though, is that if people, were able to be able to get more of that, which I believe in the future, will happen, that will further, increase. But obviously, in the circumstances we're in, you just got to take what you can get.
Well, now let me just clarify something there. For a lot of people who don't know, it is a standard understanding and pretty much a rule of thumb in the industry, political commentary, politics in general, that on any election, any given election, 20% of all voters are going to vote straight down the line. So 20% of all Democrats are going to go Democrats straight down the line. 20% of Republicans are going to vote Republicans straight down the line. That is absolute in every single election ever. That is always the first standard, and almost why you see almost no election where someone gets less than 20%. If it's only a Democrat versus a Republican, you're always going to see at least 20%, even if it's a blowout. So being at 32%, we were getting Democrats to vote for us as well.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And so that definitely showed you something. And it may have said something too about the climate of what's actually happening within Bennington as well. And people were paying attention to some of the things that you were doing and your advocate and support behind the police. but then again, like I said, it's just a matter of getting your message out. And obviously in this climate, I mean, because you can't go door to door and you can't really just verbalize what you're able to say to individuals on the street like that. I mean, you just can't count on, basically blasting off a bunch of, radio ads, to expect that's going to make a move. And I wouldn't believe it would, not in this age. But let me, mention some other things too, as far as the polling stats. And something that I thought was kind of interesting is just one of the things that is being brought up, and I'm kind of very curious to see what will happen. And even in our district, that you ran in the 13th, I really am curious to see exactly what the analytics are going to be as far as the breakdown of, when it comes to the presidential versus, the county, and then obviously, or even the New York 22 election with Tenny Brindisi, and just to see where people fell as far as party wise. And the reason I'm curious on this is because we've seen throughout the entire country that it appears to be that people have actually broken away from the president, which is against all logic in a lot of ways. I mean, I know that the media hypes him up as being very polarizing. They didn't like him, but the simple fact is that it still doesn't make statistical sense. And when somebody wants to point to a poll to prove me wrong, I'm going to be like, yeah, okay, go ahead and
forget about the polls.
Show me a poll.
Forget about the polls. Every poll was wrong. Every poll was wrong. That is an absolute fact. They got them wrong in 2016. They got them wrong in 2020. Whatever the final results are, even the legitimate results, whatever they may be, we may never know, but we know for a fact every poll was wrong because they projected everything they projected did not happen. So,
I mean, even I don't know exactly where the Tenny Brindisi is, but I
Tenny
think
won.
I mean, even that night, I mean, we were looking at it, and then one of our somebody we follow, we're looking at it, and all of a sudden he's like, oh, yep, they lost it, and we're like, we don't think so. And then all of a sudden
he did 53. It was 53 for Tenny, 47 for Brindisi. And hey, Anthony, in case I know some of your staff watch this, I feel really bad that you lost. I mean, in the 9 years I've known you, I would never have expected you to lose, Anthony. I'm so sad. See the tears. Anyway, go on.
Yeah, and so that's another thing too. Is I honestly would just even be curious to know what the spread was between the president and Tenny, because the thing is that she was a full supporter and stood behind him, and to see that if the 22nd district had a break away from Trump, I would be very suspicious, of that. But the thing is that I would like to analyze actually that around the entire country to see exactly where that is. Now, I mean, this is obviously in speculation, any sort of, fraud or inconsistencies around the country. But that was one thing that really kind of stood out to me, is just how many different times that there was that break where you're just like, well, how did that happen? I mean, they're running on the same platform for the president. They're actually they're running, and they were saying that, look, the reason I'm here is because I'm not going to impeach the president. I'm going to put forth his policies. And meanwhile, the person that they were standing behind ends up not getting as many votes as they did in either their district or their state to some degree. And I thought that was actually pretty puzzling in a lot of cases. I'm not sure if you had seen that as well.
Well, that's what we were saying earlier, is it makes no sense that, not only was there no blue wave, there was, to an extent, a red wave, because we saw that Democrats lost in the House. Republicans gained 7 seats because Republicans look to be holding on to the Senate. We're seeing, and going into even state legislatures, Republicans gained about 69 seats. So we're seeing that, and Democrats are very upset. And that's part of the conversation that happened with Pelosi in the background. They're upset because they lost. They lost everything except, it seems, the presidency.
Even the seats they were expected to win, that,
many of them, yeah.
$164 million spent against both Lindsey Graham, Mitch McConnell, both popped up above. It wasn't very, for Lindsey Graham's race, what was it, 53%?
Yeah.
Something like that.
It's incredible to see that, and it makes you wonder. It's like, wait a minute, all the highly contested, really questionable Republican races, they were won. I mean, the Tenny Brindisi race was basically the fourth or third most contested race in the Congress in the nation.
And she killed him.
And she won in, well, not quite a landslide, but close enough.
Oh, in my heart, it's a landslide.
Definitely more of a mandate than what we see that Nancy Pelosi is claiming right now, as she lost seats in the House. So there is no mandate there, but there definitely seemed to be a mandate for Republicans locally and at the state level and even on some of the federal levels, but not the presidential. That's why it doesn't make sense. And then we come back to, well, it doesn't make sense, but Republicans were going to win the House, assuming the presidency, until we had a pause that has never happened before, and then we see no reversal. So again, how can I trust the election? How can we trust the elections when everything at the local level, the state level, are telling us Republicans are winning, the president appears to be winning, and then suddenly they're now claiming he lost? I don't understand this. It doesn't make sense. And I've yet to hear an honest Democrat or a progressive or any of the far left come up with a legitimate answer on why these discrepancies happen. Why doesn't it make sense? They can't tell me there's a mandate when they lost at the local level overwhelmingly. You know what I mean?
Jacob?
I'm still with you.
Okay. Yeah. So one of the other things I was going to talk about is that you're talking about the free speech on the college and kind of the way that kind of goes now due to the fact that you got a Harris Biden. Now, the question is that, well, I mean, I've already seen this kind of play out this way because you see AOC and then the squad pretty much getting in position to try to force down, all their policies on the Democratic Party. But this election pretty much, showed that those policies have been rejected. And now the other question is that I kind of am curious exactly the position that the head of Binghamton University, Harvey Stinger, exactly where he's going to play out in this whole thing, whether or not the woke crowd will actually, be a little more emboldened now to try to force him out, to put somebody in there with the intersectionality, identity politics, and run with that at full force at this point.
He's probably going to be exactly where he was when this all went down in the first place, on vacation.
Well, we'll see. Let me open up the line again, just in case we get, Philip Price or one of the other Democrats that want to call in. But we're going to run with that idea for a second. Mm-hmm. All right, Jason?
Yep.
Thanks for calling in, Jason.
Thank you.
I love Jason from Bing. So much. He's
awesome. And as you can see, folks, the phone lines are open. You can call in at 607-242-1582. We're happy to hear your voice and hear what you have to say, as well as being able to type in on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. And I do realize that right now we are being suppressed. We were doing fine, and then suddenly, obviously, we said something that Facebook,
Have
Twitter.
Have we just stopped streaming, or?
They're breaking it on. It looks like Facebook is the one that's being suppressed at this moment,
So
possibly
YouTube is
Twitter.
still open.
The rest are open.
Okay.
So looking at Binghamton University, we know the Department of Education, as I broke the story, that they are definitely being investigated. We know that the allegation is that they broke the First Amendment rights, that they broke the contract they made with students. You're one of those students.
Yes.
And with it,
I have a personal stake in this.
Yeah. And so I know there's a limit on what you can say because there are lawsuits that are ongoing. Yep. There is an ongoing investigation. I know that Binghamton University has rejected a FOIA request already from me. I'm putting in another one.
Why don't they like you, Mike?
Because they don't want people to know what's going on. But we're going to get it because they have to give it's a FOIA.
Yeah.
This is a Freedom of Information Act. They have to tell us what's going on. So it's going to get through. And I'll call Judicial Watch and get them involved too if I have to. But let me ask you.
I'm wearing the Judicial Watch t-shirt. I've got the Judicial Watch keychain. Not trying to plug, but
yeah,
just happened to be wearing them today.
Yeah. Let me ask you, what do you think, John, would happen to, if we are correct, if, as all evidence seems to show, that Binghamton University, on the basis of their political preference of their leadership, the administration, which seems, and Binghamton University, by the way, doesn't know what an administration is. According to their response to the FOIA, they don't know what constitutes an administration of Binghamton University. It is in their FOIA response. Absolutely. And I will be publishing all of that shortly. But what do you think is going to happen to the administration if we are correct and they are found to have violated these rights?
First thing they got to do, change their policies. They have to change their policies. And you have to bring someone in who actually understands those policies.
Well, they brought in people recently to have more social justice and more of...
If they are found guilty, they need to learn what the First Amendment actually says. And it's been taught, and this has happened at other far-left campuses that have been found guilty. People like Alliance Defending Freedom and other conservative groups come in, and experts in the First Amendment come in, and they tell professors, this is the law. This is what you have to follow. You don't have to like it, but you don't have to work in this field either. That's what I would say. I mean, they need to learn what the First Amendment is. They need to learn that you cannot dock my grade. You know who I'm talking to. If my speech gets out of hand because I get a little too conservative in class.
Well, you can have any opinion and take any position you want in a conversation. By the way, one of our other fellow Brits who follow the show, and that is Agent Black, is back with us.
Cool.
And Agent Black actually is a Scotsman, as I recall.
Okay, cool.
Good to see you here. And Agent Black, you're here with John Taylor. John Taylor is from the South, Southwest, which I believe is Wales. He's Welsh, I think, if I remember my geography of England well. But it's good to see you guys, and I'm glad you're here with us. So, and maybe you guys can put in your input, because we played earlier a bit of the conversation by Mr. Bean, Rowan Atkinson, when he was talking about free speech in 2012, when he was looking at the Reform Section 5. And the question is, the same thing's happening here in our community, in the southern tier of New York and across the rest of the nation at schools, where individuals are denied their free speech, either by having people trying to say, well, you can have a free speech zone, which explicitly means that you can't have free speech anywhere else.
Except in that small box.
Except in a small box, that you're going to be punished and penalized for it, even though you're not breaking a law, you're just speaking, which is a First Amendment right. This is a problem. And we're seeing it in so many ways, but that's just one of the greatest examples of it. I think that the result of the Department of Education investigation against Binghamton University, which is going to affect every campus in the world, in the United States, should be Harvey Stenger is going to resign because he's going to avoid being fired. Brian Rose, Vice President of Student Affairs, he's going to resign rather than be fired. We're going to see several others in the administration are going to they're going to take vacations and retire. We're going to see a change in the actual class structures. And I think there's going to be a massive fine. And if Binghamton University does not do all that, then they will lose accreditation, which will destroy the local economy and have massive ramifications. So they will do this. At the same time, they're going to pump up the far left, because if Biden is president, Kamala is president, then we're going to see a big move by the far left saying, hey, democratic socialism is the way to go. And they're just going to find new ways to attack. Matter of fact, the Democratic Socialists of America have come to Binghamton University. They are part of Ithaca. They have used violence, as we have shown.
They have a chapter at Binghamton now, don't they?
They have a chapter in. They have a chapter
Binghamton
now.
University. They have a new socialist organization. They call each
That's
other.
them.
Yeah, that you're talking about the same group.
Democratic Socialists
The
of
ones that
America.
call each other comrades.
Yeah,
By the way, that isn't a joke. They seriously call each other comrades.
Of course they do. They're socialists, which is,
It is
they're
like
communists.
It is like they're playing Dungeons and Dragons with politics.
It's not Dungeons and Dragons. This is serious stuff.
I know.
This
It's
is.
kind of lame.
They may think it's a game. They may think it's fun. The thing about socialism is once you go there, you don't come back in any kind of. It's not like a switch. You can't turn off the switch and say, "Well, your rights are back." Ask the people of Venezuela, who are coming to America in droves of tens of thousands at a time. Remember the caravans coming to America? Where'd you think they started from? Venezuela. And why are they leaving Venezuela? Because the government took away their right to defend themselves, took away their guns, killed them. According to the New York Times, there was over 5,200 murders of innocent civilians by the socialist government in Venezuela. They have an outbreak of measles, mumps, and other diseases that nowhere else in South America existed. And they're coming to America in droves because they want to be free. And yet we are trying to be like that. Do you know, no one noticed when the election was going on, Hong Kong was for Trump. That should have been a message to everyone. And I'm sure I had that. I thought I had that pulled up. Hong Kong on the election was saying, hey, we've got to support Trump because they want to be more democratic. And that is the way to improve democracy in the world, to have Trump, not Biden. Jason mentions you're lagging and behind on YouTube. Yes, because right now we are being shadow banned. This is shadow banning.
This is no shadow ban allowed.
Yeah, we're getting, because of the subjects we're talking about, we have triggered the suppression tools, the automated systems in YouTube, in Facebook, in Twitter, and they are either outright blocking us or they are lagging. It's not our system. It's not our computer system. It is literally those other companies trying to suppress our voice, denying you the ability to hear what we're saying.
It's a big show, too, we're doing.
I think so. I think it's a good show. I think it's important. So if you're seeing that this is having some problems to see it, it's not our system. Our system's running 100%. Everything's perfect on our side. The reason why you're having a problem is they don't want you to see it on their side. And since they can't shut me up, the answer is, oh, well, we're going to make it laggy so people won't stay. So they won't hear. They're trying to drive you away. It's the same thing that they did to the New York Post. They drove people away. They stop you from hearing the stories. They stop you from being able to share your thoughts. This is the problem. Agent Black mentions Welsh, but close. See, okay, I was close. All right. My geography in England is not great. John Taylor mentions just south of Wales. The Welsh go mental if you call it Port of England. Fair enough. There's always the local differences. But across the pond, we don't know all those little areas. I have some idea, but I'm not great. Most of the Brits I know are Londoners, even a few from the East End. And God, are they interesting to speak to. The accent, I love it, but it's just crazy. Mm-hmm. But thank you guys. I love it that you guys are here with us.
It's awesome.
And I love to hear and I know Agent Black is always very forthright in letting me know the differences. I'd love to hear about your thoughts on free speech, like I said, from 2012 to today. And is that coming across to America? Have we imported your restrictions on free speech, like we see with C-16 in Canada, where speech is not free? You can be jailed for saying the wrong things. And we see people here in America that are looking at doing the same thing with the Democratic Socialists in particular. These are all repercussions, by the way, folks, of if Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have won, which is still in dispute. But if they have won, yes, they're going to be restricted in what they can do because the House has less power. Nancy Pelosi doesn't have a mandate, though she would like you to believe so, even though that the Senate is going to block a lot, because Republicans, if they maintain control, are going to stop a lot of it. But as Biden has made clear, he's going to use executive orders to open up our borders to everyone. He's going to incentivize people to come to America, because he's going to put out a path to citizenship and reinstate DACA. All of this through executive orders. He's going to use your taxes to pay for this, to give them Medicare for all. And by the way, if you think that's too much in taxes, he's also going to increase your taxes. He's already promised that. So if your business is on the edge right now,
due to COVID, or
imagine
in New York State.
Yeah, imagine that you're going to have another 12%. You're going to lose 12%. That's how much he's going to increase the taxes. He's going to increase it by 12% for the businesses that are on the edge because of COVID. Can you afford that money? That's going to be done by executive order. The House, the Senate, they don't get to stop that. And then he's coming after our guns. And he's going to defund the police. All of these things. He's going to ban guns, according to Kamala Harris, by executive order. They're going to go and defund the police by executive order. They're looking to have international policy promoting Iran again by executive order, international policy. These are the consequences. I've yet to see a positive consequence of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris being in charge. I don't know where people see the positive. Unless you want to be a communist. Then there's lots of positives. But other than becoming a communist, I don't see a positive for America as a democratic republic or as a capitalist nation. I don't know. Let's go across the pond. Agent Black, John Taylor. Tell me, guys, do you think that the world will be better off if America is a communist nation, if we become socialist, if we become similar to Cuba or North Korea or China or Venezuela? Is that a benefit for the world? Does that help everyone? I personally don't think so. Now, folks, we've been covering a lot of ground, and we've got about 15 more minutes, and then we'll
2-hour show today.
Yeah, well,
Big show, yeah,
we're talking about a lot of important things,
of course.
and we're trying to cover a lot of ground here. And just some of the things that we kind of talked about but didn't get into, just to show you folks, because I have a lot of stories I wanted to cover. There's the
Schumer.
in terms of the program that was faulty, which is the Dominion voting systems. Gizmodo had their weekend editor, the freelance gaming reporter, Elise Stanley, is the one who said, "Hey, it wasn't the program wasn't rigged, the program just wasn't updated." But wait a minute, which doesn't say that the program is faulty. We have Chuck Schumer dancing in the streets and talking to people without his mask on in front of a massive crowd, because it seems coronavirus can't tell the difference between a election celebration and
Well, it can tell. You mean?
Well, yeah.
It can tell the difference between celebrating Democrats and anything else,
Republicans or anything else,
or churches.
Yeah, going to church, having a meal, going to a bar, anything.
Do you have the footage up of him dancing?
He actually was dancing with the mask on. He was speaking with it off. And if you're wondering,
was he keeping 6 feet away? Was
no,
he keeping?
No, he's completely surrounded.
He wasn't even social distancing.
No, he's completely surrounded by a mob of people. Some of them have masks on, some of them don't, and that's on the Daily Mail.
Chucky, we're looking at you
because you got to go to England to see that news.
Because it was. Well, I had to tell you about it too. You didn't even hear about this until I told you.
Because it wasn't in the United States. Sorry. If you're wondering where I get some of these issues and orders that are being promoted by Biden by executive order, you can go to The Hill, where they had a story on that yesterday, as well as other sources. You wondering about where some of the policies are coming from? How do I get some of these ideas? Well, you can go to the New York Times, where I have it listed when they're talking about policing crime and guns, where Biden is very clear about what he's planning to do based on his speeches. We have some comments on Biden's first day and his plans from COVID to climate change to guns and labor, as reported by Bloomberg.com yesterday.
We spent $100 million on Florida and lost it all.
Well, if you're wondering about the energy plans, you can go to Real Clear Politics, where we can see that Biden's energy plan may kill 5 million blue-collar jobs. You want to go into CNBC talking about it's going to cost $1.7 trillion for the climate change plan that Biden is offering, which is roughly another 25% on top of what we spend every year. Tell me how taxes aren't going up with that. We know that the reform, justice reform, the bail reform, well, in September, we see how many protesters had all charges across the nation, how they just threw away the charges and people walked away clean. They committed crimes, destroyed property, and endangered people's lives, and let it go. And that story comes from Cohen, KOIN.com. You can look at that one. Mm-hmm. So, and again, I want to come back to, and then there's the Trump Accountability Project, which is promoted by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez,
a sitting
congresswoman who is promoting creating lists of people to hold them accountable. This is terrible. Vic mentions, we will soon be bowing down to those who will kill us, as Biden will finance terrorists again. Tehran, according to the AP, I think he's showing me a link here. Iran's president called on President-elect Joe Biden to, quote, compensate for past mistakes and return the U.S. to Tehran's 2015 nuclear deal with world powers, a state-run news agency reported on Sunday. Well, gee, did I call that one?
It's always nuts to hear that.
I'm on the show, so I didn't get to look at that. I did not see that. And of course, there you go. I said the nuclear deal, Joe Biden's going to reinstate it and help promote global terror as a side effect. Of course, Iran is happy about this. Agent Black says, have faith. Trump will be president. I do have faith. I have faith that if we give it time, if we allow the system to work as it should, we will get results that make sense. Now, that may or may not mean President Trump is reelected. My concern at this moment isn't about President Trump. It's about the American system. Mm-hmm. If our elections are corrupted and they are faulty and they cannot work, then it doesn't matter who's president. The entire system fails. The country eventually fails. We need to do these investigations. We need clarity and daylight on this, because even if we don't like the result, we have to know that the result is valid. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, we're a banana republic. That's the reality. But, do I have a bias to say, hey, I want to see Trump over Biden? Well, when Iran is saying, hey, it's great, Joe Biden's in, we get to have all that money and all that power again because Joe wants the Iran nuclear deal so we can have global terror. Yeah, I'm not really a fan of that. And maybe people didn't think about it because the last debate, which was supposed to be on international policy, skipped that entirely.
Skip that one.
They skipped that because if we actually had the conversation about international policy, guess what? We would have had to answer the question, what happened to what's going to happen with Iran? Well, now we know. And it's Iran saying, yeah, give us the ability to have global terror again. I'm sorry, I'm not a fan of that. I don't think people thought about that when they thought about the election and they said Orange Man bad. Orange Man got more peace in the Middle East, and right now Iran is going, hey, we get back Joe. We can get back to global terror. Did anyone need to notice this before? They should have thought about it. Agent Black goes on to say, America is the last bastion of the free world. America falls, and we all do. And I agree with you. Mm-hmm. I agree with you, Agent Black. Yep. You know that in Britain, and I know that here in America. And I think everywhere they know this. I mean, that's why millions of people legally and even more so illegally come to America every year. We are the last bastion of freedom. And that freedom is under assault when we have people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez saying, we have to hold you accountable for voting a way we didn't agree with. We've got about 6 minutes left. So, in the last 6 minutes, tell me, what are you thinking, John?
Who knows what's going to happen with this election, honestly. The results, who knows? It's probably going to go to Supreme Court. Hopefully the court isn't packed. Hopefully we can block that. That's going to be bad.
Do you see anything positive coming out of this? If it is in fact Joe Biden, is there a positive that you see?
I was never a fan of Trump's Twitter as much, so maybe less tweets.
Oh, guaranteed less tweets.
It'll
be all news agent. We'll see the media controlling every comment coming out of Biden and Harris.
Of course.
It won't be Twitter. It'll be through the mainstream media with selected
Maybe they
quotes.
can make up some ground they lost because no one's watching cable news anymore. I've said it once and I'll say it again. The reason these media companies are terrified because no one cares about them anymore. You know who watches all these cable news programs?
People my age.
Older. They put them on in retirement homes.
Yeah.
And they just keep it on because it's 24/7. I've never seen someone under the age of 20 watch CNN.
Probably not.
I've never seen anyone under the age of 30 watch CNN. It's just not my generation's thing. We're going to alternative means. Why do you think PragerU is so big?
Oh, well, and it should be. It's a great program, but...
Why do you think your show's growing?
Yeah, and by the way, we're almost at 500 folks. Please.
Tell your friends
Subscribe.
to comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell.
Yeah.
All that good stuff.
Once we hit 500 subscribers, and we're real close, we're like 20 people away. Once we can get to that, then we hit the next category. It makes it harder. The more people who subscribe, the harder it is for all of the internet overlords to block us, to suppress us. The more people who are actively involved with it, the better this does. The more we can get these words out, because they really have been they're actively trying to get rid of us. They really want us gone.
Are we going to do something special, Mike, for 500 subscribers, do you think?
I can.
Yeah, we should do something. It's a big milestone.
Well, we're almost there. I mean, folks, if you're interested, what would be 500? We can do a giveaway. We can, I don't know. What would you like us to do?
We could try to get a special guest on.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, we have a guest coming in tomorrow. That is Corbin.
Yes.
Corbin
should be.
Will be on tomorrow. We'll do a special show for that.
Yep. I'm going to double check with his team tomorrow.
Okay.
Today, I should say.
But I tell you, folks, it's a scary time. It's a worrisome time.
But
and I don't care. Here. And I don't care if you're a Democrat or you're a Republican, conservative, libertarian. Doesn't matter. Everything we've been talking about really isn't based on, other than the corruption, it really isn't based on party. It's about what are the consequences and how is this going to affect us all?
Of course, Michael will still be fighting every single week. Have you missed a show yet, Mike?
There was a time back in 2013 I missed a couple.
I don't count that. So in the last 7 years, have you missed a show?
Not really, no.
No, and of course, we're still going to be fighting. Mike is still going to be fighting, no matter what the results are.
Yeah.
He is the dragon of the Southern tier. He earns the title, clearly.
Oh, well, yeah. Considering how much they spent against me, yeah.
So, it does. You know what? No matter what happens, we still got free speech here, and Mike's probably never going to give that up.
No, I will fight for that all the way to the end, even for the speech I don't like, because that's the way it's supposed to be.
That's the way it is.
You know, the First Amendment is about the speech we don't like, not the speech we like. Agent Black mentions Trump knew all of this. He's exposing the fraud. Yes, he has been. He's actually done a great deal of it. And I'm terrified to see how many of these investigations are going to stop January 20th, if Joe Biden is declared the winner. We've got 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
2 minutes. I want to go 2 hours clear, straight out. And it's been a great show. I love that we're getting people over in
You're
Britain.
you're growing your base. It's good,
I love it when they type in, because I know it's like 7 hours ahead for them. It's about 11:30 their time.
Whoa. So they're coming in for you. And it just goes to show, Mike, you're getting your voice out there. The show is grew because of the election as well. Mm-hmm. You've had quite a few achievements this year. That's what we should look over the best of 2000. That'll be the New Year's.
Well, that's what I got to start working on, is the best of the
2000.
year. It's going to be that'll be a pain. It always is.
You have so many great moments.
Well, that's the problem.
I want clipped in there, though. I want you looking at the camera crying about Anthony Brindisi's race. By the way, congratulations to Claudia Tenney.
Of course.
Awesome job. If she's listening right now, I don't know if she is.
She does sometimes.
She does sometimes. Congratulations, Claudia. You deserve it. I personally backed her, because both financially and as much as I could. So God love you. God love you, Claudia.
Agent Black mentions there's an Iran whistleblower, Alan Parrott, Anna Kite, Khait, I believe that's pronounced Kite, on Twitter is the front lady. I will look at that. That sounds interesting, because I know that's going to be a major talk about international policy. We could see if Biden gets in, if Iran is correct, and we see Biden kowtow to the Ayatollah, we could see all of the peace efforts that have been done so far to recognize Israel, to bring peace to the Middle East, will be completely undone within the space of a year.
Yep.
And if we see Kamala Harris in there, which I think will happen after 3 months, even faster. Mavis, hey Mavis,
Hello.
Glad you've been watching. Sorry for the problems from the internet overlords as they try and shadow ban us. Mavis says the positive of Biden being elected is that most of the left is going back to sleep. That's going to piss off the radical left. It's going to be funny. The radical left is going to riot. I said it before the election. I say it again right now. They're going to lose their minds.
This isn't going to stop.
They're going to riot.
Yeah.
They don't stop now because they're getting too much. Biden and Harris support them, have paid for them to get out of jail when they did get bail, have supported them not being charged with crimes, supports social justice. That is a fact. Therefore, they're going to keep doing the rioting because they know they will not be held accountable, and Biden and Harris will back them. So it's going to be, I wouldn't call it funny. I think it's tragic because we're going to see more cities turning into Minnesota or Portland or Seattle, Atlanta, than we are going to see not, if they're in charge. And I hope and I pray and I want to be wrong about that, but I don't think I will be. All right, folks. So we've got 2:01. We've been here 2 hours. Mm-hmm. My voice is kind of going. I want to again thank John Rastusha for being here with us.
No problem.
Speaking on many of the issues, especially with Binghamton University and some of the other.
As much as I can. Yeah.
And I want to thank everyone for listening to us, from our friends across the pond. Thank you so much. You guys are great. Michelle mentions they announced the 5 other countries will not sign if Trump loses. Yeah. There you go. Again, something talking about it here, turning out to be true in the real world. Mm-hmm. The peace deals are in jeopardy. These are the consequences. All right, folks. Camera just died, so that means we're done. I will talk to you again Sunday, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I hope you're all going to be well.